Hi everybody! Today I'm going to be making a delicious calabacita con puerco, and that's a Mexican style squash and pork recipe. I was brought up with this dish and I love it, and I think you will too. Let's get started. So these are the ingredients that I'm going to be using to make my calabacita con puerco. I'm going to use 1 medium onion, finely chopped, 3/4 of a teaspoon of oregano, 2 bay leaves. I've got 4 large garlic cloves, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cumin, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of peppercorns. I'm going to be using cilantro. I've got 2.5 pounds of calabacitas, 5 ROMA tomatoes, and I have already removed the core on them, 1 chile serrano, 2 poblano peppers, 1 can of corn, and I'm going to be using the liquid in here. Now you can use fresh corn if you want, or you can use frozen corn, but I'm going to be using this out of the can because I want to use the sweet liquid that's in there. And I've got 2.5 pounds of pork shoulder, and I have cut them into about this size cubes. So let's get it together. So I'm going to be using a heavy pot like this one. So I've got my pork right here. I'm going to go ahead and put it into the pot. And along with that, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of water. So along with that 1/2 cup of water, I'm going to put in a piece of onion like this. And I'm going to let it come up to a boil. And then once it comes up to a boil, I'm going to bring it down to a simmer. Now, earlier, about an hour ago, I went ahead and sprinkled salt all over my meat. Now, you don't want to add your salt in with your meat together because it draws a lot of moisture out of your pork. So you want to put your salt way before, and then you want to put your meat to a boil. So I'm going to let it come up to a boil, and then I'm going to bring it down to a simmer and let it cook for about 45 minutes. The water has already come up to a boil, so I'm going to give it a light stir. Bring it down to a low simmer, and then I'm going to put the lid back on and let it continue boiling for the rest of the 45 minutes. So I already cut up my squash, and I cut them into pieces about this size, see, like that, and my tomatoes, and I have these ready. Now I'm going to remove the seeds out of these poblano peppers because I'm going to roast them. But before I roast them, I'm going to go ahead and remove the seeds because it's just so much easier like that. At least for me it is. I don't know if you can hear the lawnmower, but our neighbor is mowing the lawn and I can hear the lawnmower right outside the window. I think it's a lot easier when you remove all the seeds like this and then roast them. This way you don't have to mess with it, you know, once they're roasted. Just make a little slit like that. Split them open. And I've got them all. So now they're ready to roast. So I've set my heat up on high, and I'm going to go ahead and put my peppers here to roast like this. Let's check on the meat. As you can see, it's simmering really, really good. Give it a stir like this and just cover it up. And I'll continue turning these over, and just flipping them around until they're nice and roasted. So my poblano peppers are ready. As you can see, they're nice and roasted. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them into a plastic bag like this. And I'm gonna close it up and set it aside so that the steam will loosen up the skin, and then I'll be able to remove it easy later. See? So usually I just rub them with a knife like this, and then it just all comes off really easy. Like that. Ooh, they smell so delicious. So now I'm just gonna cut them into thin little strips like this. And then you can leave them in long strips like that, or just cut them into thirds like that. And I like to cut them into thirds so they're not so big. Just like this. See? So I'm gonna go ahead and set them aside. I'm gonna clean up here, and then we'll go to the next step. So I'm gonna grind my spices. I don't like to cook any Mexican dish without my fresh spices. And I think just about every Mexican dish asks for cumin, garlic, and pepper. It smells so good in here already. My meat has been simmering really low, and I've got about 4 minutes to go. So my pork has been simmering now for about 1 hour. And it still has a little bit of liquid in here, as you can see. I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. You know, I like to use pork shoulder because pork shoulder meat is best when it's cooked at a low simmer for at least an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. You don't want to rush pork shoulder. You want to cook it slow and low and let it cook for a good 45 minutes to an hour. Now, if you're going to use another kind of meat, like a pork loin, that one doesn't take that long. Even though it's a very tender meat, It doesn't take that long. But since I like to put in my tomatoes and I like to put in my spices and I like for everything to come together, I like to cook it slow. So that's why I use pork shoulder, because I need more time. Let me make sure there's nothing left in here. That. So now that I've removed the liquid, I'm going to go ahead and remove any bits of onion that are in here. And I've removed them all. So now what I'm going to do is raise the heat up. I'm going to raise the temperature up to a high temperature. And I'm going to put in some cooking oil, about 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to sear it really good. See how it's coming up and getting real nice and hot? Now that it's very, very tender, I'm going to go ahead and sear it in the oil. And I'm going to fry it real good like this until it gets to a nice golden color. Now that I have fried my meat to a nice golden brown, like this, I'm going to add my onions. Stir it around. I'm going to let these onions soften up, crystallize really nice, and release their flavor. I'm going to add my 2 bay leaves. My oregano. And stir it around so that everything can release its flavor. Now that my onions have crystallized really nice, I'm going to add my tomatoes. I'm going to add my serrano pepper. And I went ahead and cut off the tip so that some of the heat can come out. Give this a stir. I'm going to add my spices from my molcajete. Ooh, the spices smell so good in here. I'm going to season it with some salt. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon. And then I'll adjust it if I have to in just a little while. I'm going to let my tomatoes just stew in here for a little bit until they get nice and soft. And they also release all their flavor. So I'm going to let my tomatoes stew. And you know that part at the very bottom when I was frying my meat, you want to go ahead and just rub it underneath like this and release all of that good stuff at the bottom. See? Comes off real nice and clean. My tomatoes are already stewing. They're already releasing their liquid. Look at that. My bay leaves are starting to release their flavor. The spices that I put in there, the comino and the pepper, are all coming in together really nicely. So since my heat is down, about medium heat, I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. And I'm just going to let it stew like that for about 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes since my tomatoes have been stewing. As you can see, they're like falling apart. and they have released all their liquid. See, at the very bottom like that. Oh, it smells wonderful in here. I'm gonna go ahead and add my corn. Now, this is the reason why I like to use canned corn, because I like to use the liquid because it's sweet. This is sweet corn, and you know I like a little something sweet in there with a savory. So I'm gonna put the whole thing in there. See the liquid coming together in like that. Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna put my calabacita in there. Now it looks like a very full pot, and it is, but the calabacita is going to shrink down as it cooks. So now you want to bring it in together like this. And the calabacita is also going to release its own liquid. Just like that. And I'm going to cover it up, and I'm going to let it cook for about 20 minutes. So it's been exactly 25 minutes that my calabacita has been cooking on low. Now I'm going to remove the lid. So it's been 25 minutes. As you can see, look at how delicious and beautiful this looks. See? So now I'm gonna go ahead and add my cilantro and my roasted poblano strips, like that. I'm gonna give it a light stir. Stir it around gently, bring it all together. Oh my gosh, I wish you could smell this wonderful dish. I can smell the bay leaves in there with my dish. So now that I've given it a nice stir, this would be a good time for you to adjust your salt and taste it. Before I replace the lid, I'm gonna go ahead and taste it and make sure that the salt, that it doesn't need any salt. Oh my gosh, it's just perfect. I'm gonna replace the lid and let it simmer there for about 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. And my calabacita con puerco is already done. And it just looks and smells wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. And we're ready to serve. Now I've got some delicious beans right here that I cooked earlier. And I've got some of my Mexican white rice. I don't know if you can see this. This is my Mexican white rice. And here's my calabacita con puerco. See? Oh my gosh, look at that. We don't need the bay leaves anymore, so we can remove those. And we're ready to serve. So here's my rice. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link below in the description box. So if you'd like to get the recipe for this. Ooh, look at this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, look at that. my beans. I also made some corn tortillas earlier today. So I'll get one of these. Ooh, they're just so nice and warm. Now for the taste test. Ooh, this is hot. Some of my rice. Oh my goodness, this is so good. You know, when I was a little girl, I used to like to get some of the rice and put it into my beans like this. See? So this is my calabacita con carne de puerco, my Mexican squash with pork. If you like my video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Send me a comment and share with your friends. Thank you.